everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on Frieren, episode 6 Beyond Journey's End, and we've come across a wild Stark. Not Tony Stark, though. He is Iron Man with the hammer, though, or the axe, rather. I like Stark's character a lot. I like that he's kind of this... He seems like a rebellious guy because he's left his master Ison, but then you clearly know that he has a good heart underneath, and that he's also kind of cowardly. He's basically staying at this village because he doesn't feel like he has a choice and doesn't want to own up to his cowardice, but Frieren has seen right through it, but she believes that he'll be a good asset to their team. And Fern, who was not very convinced at first, seems like she might be maybe warming up to him, but I feel like it's going to be a big work in progress, right? So I've got some comments before we start from Santiago. Yes. Talked about how Himmel meeting Hader. They had this like headcanon where they're like, Himmel's going to meet Hader in the afterlife, and Hader's going to be like, yeah, like Frieren came and lived with me for like 3 years and hung out with me and my adopted daughter. And Himmel's going to be like, are you freaking kidding me? I thought that was absolutely hilarious. He'd be so jealous of Hader, right? I really hope if we do get to go to the Vale and see them that there's like some reference to that. That would be amazing and hilarious, right? I Swallow Apple Seeds talked about the show's art director is Sawako Takagi, who is the same art director for Ace of the Diamond, which I love, Blue Lock, which I love, and Bleach, which I love. So I loved that. And the concept artist is the same as Seraph of the End, which I've watched and I really, really enjoy. And yeah, I could even see the design similarities in the character work of Seraph of the End versus this one. Right? Very similar. There's a couple vampires in that series that kind of resemble Frieren just a hair. So that's fun. Algumalgium talked about Fern's first magic as a kid was conjuring the butterflies with Hader. And then the gift that Frieren gives her is the pin with the butterflies. So while Frieren was probably not around, obviously, when Fern was creating the magic butterflies, I'm sure she's talked about them. I'm sure she's created butterflies since then. And Frieren just took note of it without maybe fully realizing it. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then finally, Liminitsu talked about this concept of time blindness. And that is something that's been very present in the series, that you kind of, if they didn't have that so many years after Himmel's death, you kind of would lose track of time, right? I'm talking about this idea that in real life here, people get time blind all the time. You get sidetracked, you lose track of time, and then before you know it, this major amount of time has passed. It's also really prevalent, they were talking about with people with ADHD, which one of my really good friends has ADHD as an adult, and constantly, like, they'll text me and my friend one day, and then we won't hear from her again for like 3 days, and we're like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I just got sidetracked. And we're like, oh, wow. And she talks about how she can be working on a task and then get sidelined by something else, and then 3 days later is like, oh yeah, I didn't finish doing that. And that's just how her brain works. And so there's this idea that Frieren's been just meandering all across the land looking for these random spells and has kind of lost track of time. So having this quest to go to the Vale and having like a timeline set does give her purpose a little more focus, right? I also love everyone in the Discord calls her grandma. She reminds me a lot of the main character of Heaven Official's Blessing, which is Shilian, who is also an old soul. So I feel like they're kind of similar in terms of that. But I really like Frieren. I like our old grandma. And she, she's just trying to do her best, make it on her own, right? So thank you all for the comments. I really, really appreciate it. I'm super excited to see what we get out of episode 6 now that Stark has seemingly joined the crew. He wants to get out of this village. So, the question is he going to want to stick with them when he figures out it's like a 10-year journey? He might be like, wait, what am I signing up for? What are we going on a quest about? What's happening? So I don't know. My dogs are at my feet being very, very needy. So we'll just see how that goes with them. I'm going to tell them to go lay down. Go lay down. They've already had a treat. So you'd think that they'd be like calmer. But no chance. So I also want to give a very quick shout out over to Patreon to thank patrons for their support. I really appreciate it. You all help me to keep doing these reactions, to keep putting them online, and to be able to watch the content. So a special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Be Happy, to Danger Zone, to Destiny Marie, to Dana, to Eric DeCurie, to Loisagy, to Lyndon, as well as Matthew Palfiniere, to Nameless Monster, to Sunspots, to Shimoyama, to Trails, to Translucent Men, as well as Murphew, Not Me, and Nicholas. Thank you all so much for your support, and thank you to Anthony, who, while my internet is out, is giving me this file to watch. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, we're going to get started here. I'm going to toss this and tell my dog to go lay down. That's all they get. And we're going to check out Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Is this him swinging the axe? Yes. Yeah. The Rocky theme is playing behind him. The hero of the village. Well, that would be Stark, right? Our Himmel protege. I love that shot of him. He looks so good there. So is he doing this to keep the dragon away and to put on a pretense? Oh. But you have been doing something. You've been chasing him away. Is that true, though? Oh, I like the height difference. And she's pretty tall, so I don't want to die, yeah. But I might run away. He's like, I'm self-aware enough to know. She's like, Oh, not against a dark dragon. Oh. Why did he hit you? I don't think you'll run. Oh, you know me? But I know my own experience. Oh my gosh. Against a monster. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. And she didn't run. There we go. I just need to resolve. Oh, I ship them so hard right now. Look at these looks. Look at these expressions. And Ison recommended they go find you, so Ison clearly believes in you. Oh, my heart. Meanwhile, but I think it'll be all right. I was waiting for that but. I was like, but, yeah. Oh, no! Oh. Or is he already there? Ah! We're gonna play tag with the dragon. Nope. There we go. Look at Fern. She's like, yes. Oh. Not very long. Like, heck it isn't. I love that response. Like, heck it isn't. I like this dragon's like, I was just minding my own business. I just had a nest. I wasn't even near the village, and y'all came to kill me. After some smutty book she's gonna read. Oh my gosh. I like that it's just standing there waiting on them to attack. Oh, stop making that connection between Stark and him. Shut up. It's literally his kid. This dragon's like, the fudge did I do? I like that these like more pretty villainous demons are like, what did we do? Why are we getting killed? I mean, I know they have to kill the dragon, but it's just funny. Oh, Stark, honey. Oh, ooh, nice. It's smart, yeah. Oh, what is this? Oh, this is so beautiful. Oh, the hair and everything whipping. Oh, what is this animation? Oh, this is gorgeous. Oh, yes, please. Oh my God. Yeah. Get it, Stark. He's like, not fire, I did my job. Oh, were we supposed to do something? You old hag. Oh. Oh. She's like, my smutty novel's in here. Look at Frieren. Her just running with her Naruto skip. No more than 3 items. Oh, adventure ridiculous. Oh. He emotes so much from his eyes. Shut up, Himmel. Quit being perfect. Don't touch it. We're gonna eat it. Oh, you take them baguettes. We'll need those baguettes. Oh, sorry, my body's not more interesting. Ah! Shut up! Shut up! Oh my god. Fern, you savage beast. Oh my god, girl. Bold. 28 years, AH. Alright, that mysterious northern land. Oh, why not? This feels like a video game. Dunno! You're a lazy NPC, come on! Oh my gosh, he's huge. Frieren's like, we're just gonna jump over this wall, so bye. Maybe there's a barrier that keeps you from just going over it. Uh-huh. What are you smiling for, Frieren? Oh my god, I'm just realizing that it's just like Hader and Eisen. It's Fern and Stark. She's like, we have to shop here. We don't have a choice. Go on a date or something. Grandma's gonna go get us a room. Ah! Oh, Fern, come on! Go with him! Fern, come on! Don't be like that. Come on, girl. 2 years? Two years. Oh, this feels like It's a Wonderful Life, like where he's all eating it with him. That's because you've grown up. Yeah. Yeah, oh, say no, Eisen. Ha! The passage of time is cruel. There we go. Fern just gotta warm up to you, that's all. Yeah, she doesn't want to either. You're normal. Yeah, because Frieren would just be like, okay, well, wait. This bartender's like, I can see what's happening. Yeah, why can't we fly over? Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Couldn't be that easy. It's so pretty. I love the animation of this episode. This just feels like a video game where you have to go and like talk to all the NPCs to find out something. Let's hit up the black market! Nope, no waiting. We're gonna do crime. Are you a decent bluffer? She does not look convinced. It's like Princess Leia and Han Solo, the princess and the scoundrel. Oh my god, what? Her face! Her face! Oh, I like that he was actually like, looked sincere to that person. Well, that didn't work. Oh, they're on the defensive. Huh. I like that Frieren just let them go on this mission to bond. That is not an answer! Oh, it's a Mimi. Oh, this beefy arms. Oh, why don't you have a lot of time left? Is it for Eisen? I was gonna be like, is this about Eisen more than you? I have to go do it for him before he dies and come back and tell him. Yes, that's what it is. I was like, oh my gosh, if he was like, I'm gonna die by the time I'm 20. Now, if he sees Eisen at the Vale, I will just sob. Don't jinx it. What if like Frieren finds out he's passed and doesn't tell them? What is she even doing? She's like the most conspicuous. Why? By this big ass knight. She's like, I may have stolen this big book. Oh shit! I don't like where this is going! Oh. And he knows her. Oh no, girl. I'm taking my time. Uh-huh. They're just gonna let him go because of her reputation. Oh, uh-huh. Hero of the village, huh? Oh, no. Ah! Girl's like, oh, shit. She's like, I don't want all the notoriety. Oh. You want to take your time. Stark's like, are you freaking kidding me? She was like, I was perfectly content waiting 2 years. What a big deal. Now they just need a fourth person. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Ah! Oh. Oh, what a good episode, y'all. So this show hasn't missed yet. This episode was so good. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This episode was amazing. This may be one of my favorite episodes so far. It's hard to pick with this series. It's hard to pick which episodes are my favorite or not because they're all really good. But there was something about this episode that I love. I am all on board with Stark's character so far. I'm on board with Stark's character. I love his dynamic with Fern. It's so organic. It works so well. It feels so right. And then Frieren along in the journey is just, and the thing about it is this show does not waste your time with bullshit. It really doesn't. Because there were a couple moments where I was like, are we about to do like what I think we're about to do? And then we don't. And I'm like, oh, good. Because it could do this stereotypical thing and then it chooses to not do that. And so there were several instances of that in here, and I'm regretting not bringing Whiteboard Coon out, but I don't think I'll need him today. But we're gonna keep like a counter of all of the things that were like what you think is gonna happen, and then your expectation and being subverted, right? But I love Stark. He is a great character. I love his design. Like the design with the red hair, and like he has the Kinma Haikyuu thing going on where his roots are coming out and they're black, but he has the red hair. He gives me vibes of Kyo from Fruits Basket. That's the kind of, if Kyo from Fruits Basket was like incredibly chill and had like took a chill pill, I feel like Kyo in his design, he reminds me of Kyo, but his personality is not like Kyo's at all. But his design reminds me of it, right? That red hair and the way that he looks. I love the black shirt, the red jacket. I love the way he looks. It's so good. And the idea that he's so similar to Aizen is very intriguing to me, right? So we should talk about that. This is episode 6. And so what I like is that Stark, as a character, he's not like a brat. Like, he came across as cowardly in the last episode, and he was, groveling at Frieren's feet. But he's really not a coward. He's not like, I mean, he's not a coward in a sense that he's like just annoying and whiny and stuff like that. No, that's like subverted expectation number 1. Because when you find out last episode he's a coward, you think, well, the stereotypical thing of a coward is that they're, either slimy or they're a wimp or they're whiny or they're just, timid. That's not Stark's case at all. He uses, I love the concept that Aizen and him demonstrate of using fear as a way to channel yourself and using resolve alongside of fear to make action and make it successfully. Because that's kind of like, you could apply it to everyday life here. I mean, we're not fighting dragons or anything, but we are constantly afraid of lots of things. Like, we might be afraid of a deadline of a project, or we might be afraid of talking in public, or we might be afraid of like taking a step that might lead us to something new. Like, you get a job offer and you're like, I'm terrified because I don't know what this is going to lead to. But you can find a way to channel that fear, make it productive for yourself, and use it to like steel your resolve to move forward. And that's kind of described here in this episode. That's one of the themes. And I love that. I think that's so well done. And I just love how Stark is like, he's stoic, but he's young. So he doesn't have like the Aragorn vibes. Like, even Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, he was stoic, but he had like this rugged, like older 20s vibe to him, like early 30s, where you're like, oh, that guy's been around the block a few times. Stark can be stoic, but it's in such a youthful way that it just comes across as really fresh, but also intriguingly mature, right? And Fern's kind of the same way. She's intriguingly mature as well. So he talks about basically being like, I've been here for 3 years taking care of the village. I can't leave until I know the dragon's gone. But the dragon hasn't attacked anybody so far. So I've just been kind of training, waiting for this moment, honing it in, needing an excuse. And then here comes Frieren and Fern to be right there. I love the height difference. Like, the moment he walks beside her and there's that like height difference where she's like, her head's like at his shoulder. I was like, I ship them so hard. And I also love as a ship with Fern and Stark. One, it's like paralleling Hader and Aizen, which of course, parallel that ship, but also the idea that Fern isn't instantly like, he's not fawning over her and she's not fawning over him. She does looks beneath the clothes and she's like, oh, it's small. And he's like, what? No. That part was hilarious. I was like, Fern, girl, savage. But I like that neither of them are like lovey-dovey, like all over each other, or he's not like lusting after her or anything. No, it's a very like healthy platonic relationship they have that, if you're a shipper, you might hope it develops into something more. But the thing about it is they don't have time for that. They're on a quest to go stop, to go to the Vale, right? So that's a 10-year quest. Maybe after all is said and done, he'll settle down with her, or she'll continue to be a mage and he'll go fight with her on new adventures. Who knows, right? We don't know. Maybe they'll just stick with Frieren. Who knows? We don't know how long Frieren lives. So, but she's like, would you fight it if the dragon attacks? And I like that Stark's like, I am the hero of the village, so I'm obviously obligated to, but I might run. I'm not going to say that I am. I like that Stark is kind of humble. He understands and is self-aware of his cowardice, right? Because a lot of characters stereotypically that are cowards, they're not self-aware that they're cowards, or they're in denial of them being cowards. They're like, oh no, I'm brave. And then when the going gets tough, they run away. Stark, right off the bat, he says, yeah, I'm a coward. I might run away. Hopefully I don't, but who knows? So it's refreshing to see him be very self-aware, right? He's like, but I have to defend this village. That said, I might actually run away. And then he reveals that it wasn't a dark dragon he got the scar from, but from Ison himself. So my question would be, if, the question we have to ask is, does Stark realize why Ison hid him? He doesn't seem to. He thinks that Ison was disappointed in him for whatever reason, and that's why he hid him. But Ison reveals later on that it was a reflex, and he felt like he was going to get hurt. So in theory, you have these two scenarios. You have Stark on the one hand, they were probably training, and Stark did something, and Ison reacted. And in Ison's case, he was actually afraid Stark was going to hurt him, and he was like, oh, stop. And then Stark took it the wrong way and thought, oh, my master's disappointed in me. I didn't live up to his expectations. And they're like, no, you exceeded them. So, and part of me wonders if Stark maybe realizes that Ison's not mad at him completely, because why would you encourage Frieren to take him along the journey if you weren't mad at him? But here's my theory. I think that Ison is going to die by the time they reach that damn veil. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But a part of me is like, they're going to get to that veil and Ison's going to show up and Stark's going to tell him all about the journeys there. I feel like it's going to be one of two things. Either Ison's going to die by the time they make it to the veil and Stark's going to tell him all of their journey there, or Stark's going to make it home and tell Ison before he dies. One of those two scenarios. And I know the manga's ongoing. I don't want to know where we get to with that. But yeah, and I like that Stark, he doesn't understand why it happened, but he doesn't hold it against Ison, right? And then I love the moment that Fern takes his hand and looks at the calluses. There's something so sensual in that moment, and it's so intimate that the shipper in my heart was just like, just everywhere. I was like, yep, shippable moment. I'm like, I was all about it. Just the expressions, the way they're animated in this episode are gorgeous. And she's like, no, I don't think you're going to run from the dragon. And I like that Stark was like, what, you know me? You don't know me. And she's like, I don't know you at all. But I know what it takes to work as hard as you have. And that's a sign. People that work that hard don't give up easily. That's not going to happen. So she's like, I'm pretty confident that you're going to come back around. And she talks about her first battle with the monster, right? And so there's this idea of tough love, right? There's an idea of tough love in this episode. It's addressed through Ison. It's addressed through Frieren. And I wanted to talk about it because I thought that was really interesting. The idea of tough love with Frieren is demonstrated demonstrated 3 times in this episode. It's demonstrated once in this battle with the monsters where Fern is being challenged for the first time. And she expects Frieren to, save her. And Frieren's like, nope, if you're going to survive in this world, you're going to have to steal your resolve and you're going to have to fight these monsters yourself. You can't rely on me to save you every single time. And so she does. And she steals her resolve and she is able to destroy the monster. That's time number 1. Time number 2 is when they're actually fighting the dragon, which we'll talk about. And Frieren and Fern, I was starting to wonder when Stark was battling the dragon, I was like, it's been over 30 seconds, you'd think. When is Fern and Frieren going to step in? But Frieren's like, no, I think you can beat the dragon without us. You were the one that could beat the dragon, not us. We couldn't beat him. Otherwise, we already would have. So we just needed you to think that we had your back so that you felt confident enough to slay the dragon yourself. And then we're like, yeah, good job. You didn't need us at all, see? So that was time number 2. And then time number 3, even though I genuinely think that Frieren would totally stay there for 2 years and just keep doing her research and be totally fine with it, I think the third thing is, she went off to get the hotel and research some magic, knowing full damn well as soon as the one older man recognized her, they were good to go. And she kind of let them figure the problem out for themselves. Like, solve the problem, you'll figure it out, it'll be fine. And then if not, then you'll come back to me and then we'll work something out. So it's really curious. There's like these life lessons embedded in the story, especially for how one generation should treat the next, right? Because I feel like it's all too easy for the older generation to want to kind of not necessarily coddle, but want to protect, overprotect, and assist the newer generation to the point where they can't do anything themselves. I'm just a teacher. It's not like I see this on a daily basis. But a lot of times I have a lot of issues with parents because I deal with students that are like graduating high school, coming into college. And I deal with a lot of, 17, 18-year-olds that come to school and they don't exactly know how to be self-sufficient. And the reason for that is because people have not let them do it. They want to do it for them, or they don't want to see them fail. So they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll do it all for you. So that when they have to do stuff on their own, they don't know what to do. And then they're like, well, nobody taught me and I don't know how to do this. And they've not been raised with that mentality to kind of like steel their resolve and work through it. They just give up. And I'm like, no, don't give up. I deal with that every day. And I'm like, don't give up. No. And they're just like, huh. So I like this story is demonstrating that, no, that's not the right thing to do it. That's not the right way. You have to have resolve. You have to face with your fear and transform your fear into power. And this episode does a really, really good job of iterating that, right? But I love the animation. She's like, even though you're a hopeless coward, I think you have the resolve to protect the village. Otherwise, you wouldn't be practicing every day. If you didn't think you could protect the village, if you thought you were going to die, if you had no intention to ever fight the dragon, you would not be training like you are. There's no way. And I love he just looks at his bandaged hand and like slowly grips it and just slowly closes it in. Oh, the nonverbals in this episode, the nonverbal things, just the expressions, the cues, they were all so well done. I'm like, yes, awesome work. And we see his fist closed compared to Ison's and the blood from it. And he's like, my resolve, huh? So then we go back to Frieren. We come back to Frieren and she's just sitting there on the bed. And just chilling out with her book like you do. And Fern's like, I don't know if he's going to follow us. He seems like he might run away. And Fern's like, Frieren's like, I think we'll be good. But then he's not there. And Frieren's like, well, I'm disappointed. I'm quite disappointed, actually. But no, he shows up. I love as soon as she shows up, Fern has a little smile on her face. She's like he did actually come, right? I do love that Frieren at first was like, we're going to play tag with the dragon. And Fern's like, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. And then he's like, if I die during the battle, you have to finish off the dragon so that the village would be protected. And I like that Frieren's like, yeah, I can do that. She's like, why are you going this far for the villagers? And he's like, well, I lived in this village for 3 years. And I love that Frieren's like, oh, well, that's not a very long amount of time. And Stark's like, heck it isn't. Because again, we talk about like the ratio of age per experience. When you're only 4 or 5, a year is a fifth of your life. That's a long time. But if you're, 1,000 years old, 3 years is nothing. So, Frieren sometimes forgets that ratio to Stark. Stark, who's only like probably 18 or 19, 3 years is a big long time. That's a sixth of his life. So of course he thinks that that's a big period of time. I gave a lot of joke about this dragon because, yeah, this dragon has been harassing the village. It has clearly probably killed people. It's got a nest of things they want. But damn it, that dragon wasn't doing anything. It's like when in The Hobbit they just show up to Smaug's like cave. Although Smaug had caused a lot of problems outside that need to be dealt with. But it's like they just show up in the cave like, come on, we came here to kill you. And it's like, what? Why? Also, we said in the Discord that it would be funny if all the grimoires that Frieren is looking after are just smutty novels. There's no spells. She's just after like the most prized smut in all the Central Lands. For her collection, she's just getting as much yaoi and Donmai as she can. That'd be great. But, and then I love the idea of my hands are trembling. I'm afraid. And she's like, I'm not laughing. It's just you're like Ison. I love all the comparisons. Also, what is this beautiful, like Digimon-esque demon with the mane of hair? It looks like the Nine Tails from Naruto mixed with like a goat, mixed with a gazelle. It is absolutely gorgeous, but I like this demon is just standing there like something out of Final Fantasy, and they're like, we gotta fight this now. This series does read like a video game a lot, which I appreciate because I don't play a lot of fantasy video games, but it seems like it. If I were playing a video game, this would be the one I'd want to play. And I love that Frieren asks if Eisen's scared, and he's like, yes, my fear brought me this far. If I wasn't afraid, I wouldn't be here. And I like that Frieren's like, you tremble the same way he does. That's a good thing. And so, yeah, my master was afraid too. All I need is resolve. I love that. I love that Stark, he loves his master, and he's like, he wants to be like him. And he's like, well, if this is all it takes. And Ison admitting that Stark's probably going to be better than him. Like, that kind of positivity. I like the idea of this show promoting the new generation being stronger than the last. And Frieren is kind of like the grandma that's trying to make sure that this new generation is ushered in a good way. But damn, this animation, oh my gosh. I was like, the moment he slid under the dragon, I was like, what are we doing? Oh my God. I was floored. I was like, okay. And just, there was lots of little moves. There were a couple animation styles. I was wondering if it was going to be like the cubes of My Hero Academia, the cube style explosions. We saw that a little bit in Jujutsu Kaisen, but it was not actually. So that was a pleasant surprise. But yeah, the animation, the way the dragon's fire was illustrated, and the moment of Frieren's hair billowing in front of the camera as she's reminiscing about her and Eisen's conversation. Oh, that whole scene where he's like, I was afraid of him, Frieren. Now, this point here, I'm talking about Frieren's parenting style, where she like tough love leaves her kids to figure it out. There was a moment here, I don't know. It was very interesting because it was like he punched back at Stark because he was afraid of him, right? And it ended on bad terms. There's a part of me that wishes that Ison could tell him this so that Stark knew, or that Frieren would tell him. But regardless, the idea he's going to become an incredible warrior. And Frieren, I like seeing Frieren smile more. She's like, all right, my kids are going to be able to do it. That'll be great. Like, I love seeing Frieren give some more expression as we go. But yeah, the idea that Stark just wallops the dragon on the head and kills him. And then when he's flying on the side of him, like the wind whipping around, oh my gosh. I honestly haven't seen animation that did a fight quite like that. And I liked it. I was like, okay. It was different because like the focal points and the way that the shot was done and the colors, it was different. And I thought that was very unique. I liked it. I haven't seen an anime do it like that in a while, but it was cool. And then, yeah, just pounded the dragon down. And I like these, like, you didn't come and help me. And she's like, you already killed it. Don't have to. And then they go down to find, and he's like, I actually killed the dragon myself. And she's like, yeah, you could do it all along. You just had to have the resolve. And I love that she, like, taps him. She's like, good job. Like, Frieren giving him praise. What about this? And then her expression as she's like Naruto running towards the gathering nest of goodies. Like, Frieren at times Frieren can't decide if she's going to be a 1,000-year-old grandma or if she's going to be like a 10-year-old kid. Like, it's one or the other. There is no in between. But she's just like happily and merrily like prancing towards the pile of dragon goodies. And Stark's like, what a strange woman. But he smiles like, okay, I did it. We were able to do this. And I love that she's just grabbing all of it, like bones and all, skeletons, chests, spears, everything. And Fern's like, you get to take 3 items. And she's like, but daughter. She's like, no, grandmama, you don't get to take any more than 3 things. You just wanted the book to begin with. And Stark's like, why are you interested in this stuff? She's like, it's a mountain of treasure. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And then that's when Stark says, my master said that his journey with you was ridiculous and fun. And Frieren's like, really? So then we cut to them. I'm assuming this little, what we see, the emblem of the 4 flowers, the 4 flower petals, which is funny because we have 4 travelers in the party. I feel like it's going to come back later. Like we're going to visit this location again, maybe. But I like that she's making Hader the shaved ice and doing it I like too that the spells are realistic enough where it's not like she waves her staff and there's suddenly poof, a pile of shaved ice. She actually has to make the shaved ice like little bits at a time and has to pile up. And I like that, Ison, just like Hader probably, was a little bit not suspicious, but a little bit apprehensive of Frieren at first. And it was Himmel who had faith in her that was like, no, just give her time. She'll rub off on us. How dare Himmel be perfect? How dare he be perfect? How dare, right? Also, I absolutely love how Ison, I said it in previous episodes, and I will say it again because we're probably not going to see Ison for a while. I love how much Ison emotes with his eyes. We never see his mouth. We never really see his nose. He emotes through his biceps and through his eyes, and that is it. And he's still able to illustrate such a range of feeling that it's kind of crazy. I love it. I love it, though. But yeah, old Himmel. And then we have that mimic. I'm like, she's going to get stuck in that thing in about 10 minutes, which is hilarious. So yeah, and then she doesn't have a spell to produce syrup yet. She probably has found one in the meantime. So yeah, the village gives them the bread. They all say their goodbyes. I like that we've left this story. There's no plot hole here. We got rid of the dragon, so we can go. And so yeah, the grimoire. This grimoire is basically a smut novel because it lets you see through people's clothes. So it's like it's a create your own BL series, right? And then I like that she uses the spell on Frieren, and she's like, yeah, I can see through it, but it doesn't do much else. And I like Frieren's like, well, I'm sorry, my body's not more interesting. And she's like, I don't know what to tell you, Grandma. And then she looks over at him, and as if there was there is no, she like glances down, and that's it. She's like, it's so small. And he's like, I'm not small. And I'm like, oh, honey. What do we say? What do we say? What do we say that? Mine's out of the gutter, right? How dare. I will say, I've seen some fan art shared where Frieren is like drawn nude or something, and I'm not really a big fan. I don't know. Here's the thing. It's hard to claim like objectification of characters because I know as soon as I say that, somebody will be like, well, you're fine looking at topless photos of men. And I'm like, yes, but there's like a whole hashtag the patriarchy. Like, there's a whole thing with that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of like portraying Frieren in like here's the thing that bothers me about like the nude art of Frieren, or like there's been a couple like poses where she's been like in really demure poses, and I've not really said much about it because it is what it is on the channel. As long as it's not anything inappropriate, then it's fine. I'm not going to flag it. But my thing is, Frieren is not the type of personality that would be doing a pinup spread. She's not. This whole scene just proved it. She's like, oh, my body's not interesting. That's fine. She just would not be. Himmel, if you showed me like a full spread of Himmel and like a pinup where he's like nude and like posing, yeah, that would make sense because that's Himmel's personality. Of course he would do it. He's probably mailed one of those pinups to Frieren like 8 times and she just tosses each one of them out, right? So that's fine with a character. If a character is flaunting their sexuality or flaunting their body and they're comfortable with it, then yeah, the artwork reflecting that makes sense. But if you have a demure character, and a lot of times in anime, it's women that are demure and timid, and you're just flaunting their bodies and objectifying them sexually, when you know their character would not be one for it. I'll use the example of like Rei from Neon Genesis Evangelion. You see a whole shitstorm of art about her, but her personality, I'm like, she's very indifferent and clinical and doesn't care about that sort of thing. So it makes it very objectified, and it's kind of like gross to look at. I'm like, cool. But I'm like, where's my Himmel posters, damn it? He'd be fine with it. But Frieren, I just don't think so. And that's my rant of the day. As a female reactor, it just makes your mouth taste sour. I don't know. But I like that Stark decides to stay with them. I like that. I like, for as cowardly as Stark claims to be, he's actually really not. He's actually pretty brave. He took on the dragon by himself. He didn't half-ass it. He genuinely killed a dragon, did his best. And then I love that he's like, you would think a coward would like take the first chance he could to run away. But he's like, no, my master told me to stay with you, right? So I'm going to do it. And then we find out later his motivation, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I'm glad he doesn't try to run away. He sticks with them, and Frieren's like, okay. Also, it is well worth noting that Frieren is totally fine taking on Stark. Like, what a change. Back in episode 2, Frieren was like, I don't want any mages. I don't want any apprentices. I don't want any extras. I don't want to do this. And now she's slowly warming to the idea of, yeah, let's get the party back together and go from here. They still need one more member, at least, right? They're not going to be a trio forever, I'm assuming. I'm assuming they're going to pick up maybe the green elf. I don't know. I can't decide if the green elf from the opening is going to be like a one-shot character that we see for one episode and then he disappears, or if he'll be somebody that sticks around. There's also a character in the OP. I haven't paid too much attention because I want to be surprised, but they have like a duster on and a hat, and I'm like, are they going to be a one-shot character? Are they going to join the party? I'm very curious to find out. It'd be cool to see how that goes. But so we go to the fortress city of Wall, and this gigantic man who is guarding it that is so intriguing. And so then there's the checkpoint that they can't get over. It makes sense. There's a barrier, so they can't fly. That all makes sense. But I like how they were like, oh, it's going to take 2 years to get the stuff settled before we can open the border. And Frieren was like, okay. Frieren's like, I'll just do some magic research. I'm fine. She's like, she's totally fine taking a 2-year sabbatical to work on her like magical research. And meanwhile, Fern, I love how Stark's like, well, I don't want to wait 2 years. I'll help you figure it out. I love that Fern is having none of waiting 2 years. She's like, oh, hell no. But the way that she freaks out is so funny because, again, you would expect the stereotype is you find something out like that and you're like, we can't wait 2 years, and they freak out. Fern's freak out is so subdued. It's almost non-existent. She's like, we're not staying here for 2 years. It's very much how Frieren would freak out, which is hilarious to me, that influence Frieren has had. And she's like, well, I'm going to go find us a room. You guys have fun. And I feel like she just like she took the kids to a theme park, dropped them off and said, okay, go ride some rides. Be back by 6. Bye. And of course, these two that don't know each other very well are like, what do we do? And I like that Fern's just like, here we go. She's used to this routine. Stark, I like that he's like, do you want to go get some food? But I felt so bad because I'm like, Stark was trying to like, initiate something. And that glare from Fern was very much saying, no, I'm not going to do that right now. It's like, okay, never mind. But him at the bar getting the ice cream, there's a couple things. One, yes, when you're a kid, everything seems big. And then when you get to be an adult, you're like, oh, wow, it really wasn't big the whole time. I was just very small. Also, this scene was giving me very like It's a Wonderful Life vibes, if you've ever seen that movie. In that movie, George Bailey, when he's a kid, he goes to this like soda pop shop, this little cafe, and he gets ice cream there. And one of the girls that ends up marrying him later on, she like, kind of comes up to him and talks to him and everything. But she's very even keel and very even tempered around him. She's not like fawning over him or like being obsessed with him. She just treats him like a normal human being. And that is kind of the vibe I got from Stark and Fern in this episode, was that she was just being like, hey, here's the situation. Do you want to help me resolve it? And he's like, yes. But that bartender's so new. That bartender, he knew Ison, but he also knew that girl and him, he was like, Like the moment that Fern and Stark had their banter back and forth, that bartender was like, I can see what's going down. He starts singing, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? It's great. And I'm like, I just like Fern and Stark together. I think they're dynamic. I think the way that the series, like it shows them their heads back to back, like the little tiny gestures, the little nuances, it all works out so well. It's beautiful, right? And she just gets a glass of milk. I like that she is very like he kind of indulges and gets like the big indulgent dessert, and she just gets the glass of milk. Like she's very pragmatic and simple. Like they're opposites, but opposites attract, right? So yeah. So then they talk about flying over, which is not a goal. So they go around and they ask everybody they can come to think of. And it's this really cute little montage of them getting to know each other, them talking about the northern lands, talking about their options, what they're going to do. I like that Frieren's like, you guys go, do an icebreaker, figure out, if you guys are compatible for this trip, and come back and see me when you're done, right? But yeah, I like that Stark says he's going to like convince the guys to give him secrets by being this delinquent. And so we see again, the world in Frieren looks so lived in. Like we see the homeless people outside of the walls there on the blankets. He like uses his scar to seem tough. And I like Fern in the background that's just there like, I guess I'm going to follow you and see what happens. I love her just in the background in this montage where he like comes up and he keeps pointing at the scar like look at me, I'm intimidating. And these guys are like, whatever. And then, they kind of like seem like they're going to try to test Stark and Fern, and then they walk away. And then that last shot where Stark is like leaning over the person that's homeless there and talking to them, it looks so sincere. Such a great scene. So then we get them atop the wall talking and trying to figure out what. And the moment that Stark said he was running out of time, again, we talk about subverting expectations. For a second, I was like, oh no, show. Don't you be giving us this Stark has like 4 years to live or something like that. I'm like, no. Don't be doing that unnecessary drama. And it doesn't. Instead, his goal is kind of like Fern's with Hader. He wants to be able... Like for Hader, it was, providing for Fern and getting Fern to a place where she could take care of herself. And for Stark, Ison already knows he can take care of himself. He knows he's going to be a great warrior. For Stark, it's bringing back stories like Ison told him and being able to reciprocate and pay him back in that way. And that was such a nice subversion. I was like, okay, good. Now, I just need him to get back to tell Ison the stories, whether it's at the Vale and he's died or whether they get back before he does. Like that's all I need, right? And maybe Stark will get back to Ison before he dies and tells him all the stories, because then he'd have to tell Ison about Frieren meeting Himmel at the Vale. So maybe that'll all work out. I like them looking out to the north and seeing all of this in front of them. And it's like, okay, here we go. This is what we got left to do. It's really, really good. And the view here. And like little baby Stark with Ison. And he's known him since he was a little kid. He's so cute. That was absolutely freaking adorable. I loved it. Again, Ison communicates, and his expression, his most emotive body parts are his eyes and his biceps. Seriously. And Ison with the hand on his shoulder, like showing him like, here's what awaits you in the future. And then seeing Stark with the axe instead of the hand. Just really good stuff. Love it. We get the flag of the Central Lands. We get the 2 black birds and the swords, interestingly enough. So I like that when they go back down, they see Frieren, who is the most conspicuous. She's just like, I thought for a second she had stolen a book that she wasn't supposed to. And the guards were like, you can't have that. And she was like, 1 jump ahead of the bread line. Like she was just going to like try to get them to go run away with her because she's taken something she wasn't supposed to. Not the case. Instead, she was doing magical research and she was confronted by one of, what do they call him? Yeah, we see the big giant guard, and then what's his name here? The captain guard, the Castellan of the city. And of course, he remembers Frieren from way back when. And she's like, oh, yeah. She's like, oh, don't bother me. He was just doing his job. I'm not somebody important. And he's like hell you aren't. You protected the lands all those years ago. Here's the thing. I think something else about Frieren as well. Stark is very... Stark took up the mantle of staying in the village to keep it safe, and he did that for 3 years. Fern doesn't really have any obligations. She's just learning. I feel like Frieren does not want to have obligations. I feel like Frieren keeps a lot of her magic and her powers close to the chest because she doesn't want to be solicited by, like she was during that one 10-year adventure. She doesn't want to be solicited by any groups, and she does not want to be responsible for going and saving people. She's like, I just want to collect my magic spells, meander along my merry way, maybe help out a couple randos that need it every now and then, but I don't want to be anyone's tool for destroying a force like I was then, right? So yeah, because the guy's like, with the remnants of the Demon King's forces, you must be concerned about the present situation. Frieren's like, I was actually okay waiting here for 2 years. You have the kindness of a hero. And I'm like, she was going to wait for you guys to solve this on your own, but you assume she had the kindness of the hero. And he's like, well, we'll be delighted as well. So of course we'll just let you go on. And she's just like, no, that's not. She's like, I don't want to have any obligations for anybody to have to fight any monsters. We're just going to the Vale. I think that's what she's afraid of, is that their whole mission is just to go to the Vale, talk to Himmel, and come back home. But I feel like because she's known by people that are still alive, and because she's known as someone that killed the previous Demon King, they're going to assume that she'll be able to help out this time. And she's like, I don't want all this responsibility. I just want to go do my thing and leave. So yeah, as they're leaving, she's like, I don't want this fanfare. I don't want people having these expectations of me. I don't like this. She's like, no. She's like, I wanted to take my time anyway, and I don't like this kind of thing. And then with Stark asking, is this how it was from a master? And Fern kind of has that same expression Hader does there. And then Frieren's like, yep. And we see her with the party there. She's like, you're right. And of course, Hader and Ison are in the same places as Stark and Fern are. Now, the question is, Himmel's right in front of Frieren. So is there going to be someone else come in and be like a Himmel figure for Frieren this time around? I don't know. Or is Frieren going to be the Himmel? Maybe Frieren will have to help someone else figure out how to melt their heart slowly but surely. I don't know. But yeah, the animation, the dialogue, the themes, the idea again of like passing on from one to the next generation and all that encompasses this episode. And the shipping, this episode was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. So, R.I.P. Dragon. Frieren got to get her smut novels. Let's go. So we're going to the Northern Lands. Made it past a checkpoint. Here we go. We're only on episode 6. So fun times. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back really soon with more Frieren. Bye.